What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 154 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Friday, April 10th, 2026. I'm your host, Zach Malum. But before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of basketball as the New York Knicks were in action last night, taking on the Boston Celtics at Madison Square Garden. A crucial game for the Knicks in terms of Eastern Conference playoff seeding, and the Knicks grab a win. 112-106 the final. They got 26 points from Josh Hart in this game. 15 of them coming in the fourth quarter. He shot 10 of 15 from the field, 5 of 7 from deep, and 2 of those 5 three-pointers were in the last minute of the game when the Knicks needed it the most. Josh Hart stepped up to the plate and knocked down a couple of huge threes. Jalen Brunson also added 25 points in this game on 10 of 19 shooting. He had 10 assists as well in this one. That was really it for the Knicks. It was all about those two guys. Yes, Karl-Anthony Towns had 16 points, 12 rebounds. OG Anunoby had 13 points of his own, but the Knicks really focused on Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. Take them to the promised land. That's exactly what they did late in the fourth quarter against the Celtics team that did not have Jaylen Brown for this game, still dealing with that Achilles issue. And then Jason Tatum really took the reins for Boston in this one. 24 points on just 7 of 22 shooting, 2 of 10 from beyond the arc, 13 rebounds, 8 assists in the game. He also had 6 turnovers, which really hurt Boston in this one. But most of the contributions were off the bench for Boston, especially with Peyton Pritchard, 23 points, as well as Baylor Shireman, 20 points off the bench, 7 of 8 shooting from the field, and 6 of 7 from deep in this one. Shireman was a really annoying player for the Knicks to deal with in this one. 30 minutes, and he's just knocking down 3 after 3, 6 of 7 from beyond the arc, and really kept Boston in this game. The Celtics, who trailed by double digits midway through that third quarter, ended up taking the lead in the fourth quarter, a 7-point lead, and you're thinking it's a disaster for this Knicks team. They cannot lose to the Celtics without Jaylen Brown. What is that going to mean for the Knicks heading into the playoffs with a fully healthy lineup? They end up grabbing a win, and that's important in the end. Of course, there's still a lot left of this season, 2 games to go, and yes, there's just that slim chance that the Knicks end up pushing the Celtics for that 2 seed. They have 2 games to go. They are 2 games back. The Celtics end up going back in action tonight to take on the New Orleans Pelicans, a game that Boston probably should win and lock down that 2 seed in. They also then face the Magic if they end up slipping up against the Pelicans, face the Magic on Sunday. The Knicks, on the other hand, have 2 games left. They go up against the Toronto Raptors. We'll get to that game in just a minute. That one's taking place tonight at Madison Square Garden. They also take on the Charlotte Hornets on Sunday. That also is at MSG. And then finally, they have the Cleveland Cavaliers right on their tail, a game back of the Knicks. If the Knicks lost last night, they would be tied in the standings with Cleveland. Of course, the fight for that 3 seed, not wanting to get that 4 seed. If I'm the Knicks, I'm definitely wanting to face Boston rather than face Detroit. Detroit, of course, they still have the injury question marks with Cade Cunningham, but I do not want to face Detroit until the Eastern Conference Finals if I do not have to, especially with the Knicks being able to beat Boston last year. You see what the Knicks are able to do in playoff basketball, and I think the Knicks could have the edge over Boston if they go up against them in the Eastern Conference in the second round, whether that is in the second round or in the Eastern Conference Finals, however it is. But I do not want to face the Detroit Pistons. Looking at Cleveland quickly, though, they also have a couple of pretty easy matchups in the end. They take on the Atlanta Hawks. Not a great matchup for Cleveland, but one that they probably could win if they have their A game in that one. And then they also take on the Washington Wizards on Sunday. So an easy matchup for Cleveland. And that could be a crucial game in terms of seeding. If the Knicks slip up against the Raptors or the Hornets, Cleveland's right there to take that 3 seed. And I think it's very, very important that the Knicks end up winning these 2 games and not have to face the Detroit Pistons, who are red hot. so far this season. So right now, the Knicks sit as the 3 seed, and they have to continue to roll, continue to win games. That is all that matters. And they continue that stretch tonight. It's a 7:30 start at Madison Square Garden as they welcome the Toronto Raptors to town. And the Knicks come into this game 6.5-point favorites, total sitting at 218.5, a 7:30 start at MSG. And the Knicks have to get a win, like I said. On the other side for Toronto, they are dealing with some injuries right now. Emmanuel Quickley is going to be out for this game. They also have Trace Jackson-Davis out for this game due to an illness. On the Knicks side, they still have Mitchell Robinson out for this game. And then, of course, Deuce McBride is still out dealing with that pelvis injury that he ended up aggravating against Oklahoma City a couple weeks ago. Still on the injured list, you would say, right now for the New York Knicks. So we'll see what happens tonight, but make sure you tune in. A 7:30 start at MSG as the Knicks host the Raptors at the Garden. Let's shift things to baseball as both New York teams were in action this week, and we start things up in the Bronx as the New York Yankees welcome the Athletics to Yankee Stadium for a 3-game set, and the Yankees get handed their first series loss of the year in deflating fashion. We start on Tuesday, though, where the Yankees came back and beat the Athletics in the series opener. They were trailing 3-1 after Tyler Soderstrom hit an RBI double in the top of the third. It wasn't until the 8th inning where the Yankees started to chip away. Giancarlo Stanton hits an RBI single that scores Cody Bellinger, and then it was Ahmed Rosario who was the hero for the Yankees in this one. A 3-run bomb. He smoked it into left field, 414 feet to give the Yankees a 5-3 lead. And old friend Mark Leiter Jr. Definitely was a key factor to that. 4 earned runs in just 2/3 of an inning, and he gets credited with the loss in this one for the A's. David Bednar comes in for the save, and Fernando Cruz gets credited with the win, his first win of the season for the Yankees. So they end up getting a big-time win in comeback fashion. It really proves that the bottom of the lineup stepped up for them, and they ended up getting some great contributions from those guys on a day where it was not Aaron Judge who was the hero, Trent Grisham at the top of the lineup. Not many of those guys. Of course, Big G with a clutch RBI single in the 8th inning. So the Yankees end up winning 5-3 in the opener, and then it was downhill from there. When you look at the next day, it was 3-2 Athletics, the final, and the Yankees just struggled to get things going after the first inning. They had an RBI single from Cody Bellinger to give them a 1-0 lead, and JC Escarra had a RBI walk to give the Yankees a 2-0 lead. After that, the offense just completely fell asleep. Give credit to the Athletics as well. And Luis Severino, who had a rough first inning, but really stepped up in this one. 5 innings he ends up going, 7 strikeouts, 100 pitches. He did have 5 walks in the game, and the Yankees were not able to take advantage of it. And the rest of the Athletics bullpen really locking things down, and give credit to them. They were really electric for the rest of this game after Luis Severino went out. So you look at the Yankees offense and you're saying, all right, well, it was a bad day. They put up 5 runs the day before. Maybe it's just a little bit of a slump on the day and they move on. It really was not that, because then the next day in the series finale, the rubber game of the 3-game set, the Yankees end up losing 1-0. The offense completely fell asleep, and you can't even blame Ryan Weathers too much in this game, who went 8 innings for the Yankees, 7 hits allowed, 1 earned run, with no walks and 7 Ks. He was great in this game. The offense was nowhere to be found, though, and give credit to Jeffrey Springs, who went on the mound for the A's in this one and got his 2nd win of the year to move to 2-0. 7 innings strong, just 1 hit allowed, no runs, with 2 walks and 6 Ks. Just the 1 hit on the day for the Yankees, and that's not going to win you a ball game any day of the week. They have 0 runs, 1 hit, and that's the series losing game for the Yankees against the Athletics. So they end up losing to the Athletics in a just deflating loss, like I said, on Thursday, to lose their first series of the year. Not time to panic just yet. However, the Yankees bats do have to wake up at some point. They looked really good for the first couple of series, putting up 5 runs in most of their games, 5 or more runs in most of their games. They end up not putting up too many runs, only 2 runs in the last 2 games for this Yankees offense. So they head into another 3-game set, this one in division, though, and they have to go down to Tampa and play the Tampa Bay Rays for a 3-game set at Tropicana Field. And it's the Yankees who send out Luis Gil onto the mound tonight. He's going up against Steven Matz in this one. Matz already this year with a couple of wins, 2-0, 4.09 ERA. Luis Gil's making his season debut. Of course, had a couple of minor league starts to start the year, dealing with some injury, and he comes back for his first start of the year. So it's a 7-10 start in the first game of a 3-game set. Tampa is 5-7 on the year. The Yankees now 8-4. Make sure you tune in to this series and all series long as Luis Gil takes the mound for the Yankees against Steven Matz tonight. 7-10 start down in Tampa Bay. But let's shift things to the other side of New York as the New York Mets were also in action this week and were also handed a series loss, a deflating one as well for this Mets team as their offense completely fell asleep the last 2 games, as well as their pitching was not up to par for the last couple of outings, and that's really what it came down to for this Mets team. On Tuesday, they did end up getting the win, and it was Ronnie Mauricio who was the hero, a pinch hit RBI single to walk it off in the 10th inning, and it gave the Mets a 4-3 victory. Luke Weaver gets the win. Paul Sewald gets the loss. Former Met ends up getting the loss at Citi Field in this one. Great job by the Mets, still fighting back. Comeback fashion. Jared Young hits a sac fly in the bottom of the 8th to tie it, and Ronnie Mauricio finishes it off with an RBI single and a walk-off single in the 10th inning. So the Mets end up getting a huge win, comeback fashion, and makes you feel really good. They've won 4 in a row, and everything's going the right way. Then you get to Wednesday's game, and David Peterson is just 1 or 2 bad starts away from being out of the Mets rotation as he has another bad start at Citi Field on Wednesday, and it was 5 innings pitched, 6 hits allowed, 6 runs, 5 earned with 2 walks and 6 Ks. Just not a good day for David Peterson, and he ends up getting credited with the loss in this one. 0-2 on the year. Just a bad outing for him once again, and Corbin Carroll had his number as well. 3 extra base hits in this game for Corbin Carroll. But the offense on the Mets side, just nowhere to be found. It was 5-0 Diamondbacks in the blink of an eye in the top of the second. The Mets sort of chipped away. You had Brett Beatty almost give them some hope with an RBI single to make it 5-1 in the bottom of the 6th. Mets had some traffic on the bases, nothing doing there. And then the Diamondbacks end up adding to it with a 2-run double by Barossa. Vientos hits a sac fly in the bottom of the 8th to make it 7-2. But that was all she wrote. And Ryan Nelson was really good in this game for the Diamondbacks. 5 2/3 with 5 hits allowed, 1 run, 1 earned run with no walks and 5 Ks. So a great game for the Diamondbacks. And you think, okay, well, going into the rubber game of the 3-game set, you got Nolan McLean on the mound. Just step up, get some runs for him, and you should be in good shape. Nolan McLean was really good in this game. The Mets offense was not really good. And it ended up coming down to Luke Weaver, who had his first bad outing of the year and ends up not getting the loss in this one. Nolan McLean got the loss, but that was just because the Mets offense did absolutely nothing in this one to help out their star pitcher, Luis Robert Jr. It did start off the party with a home run in the bottom of the 1st, a launched one into center field, 412 feet, to give the Mets a 1-0 lead. It wasn't until the 7th inning, though, McLean gives up a couple hits. The Diamondbacks start to rally, and they end up putting up 4 runs in the 7th, followed by 3 runs in the 8th. And McLean went out of the game, of course, with 2 runners on. Luke Weaver allowed both of those runners to score, plus 2 more, and he only pitches 2/3 of an inning with 2 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, no walks, no Ks for Weaver. Like I said, his first bad outing in the year. That not every game's going to be perfect, especially for this new look Mets bullpen. And Luis Garcia got tagged as well after Weaver went out of the game. And Garcia, who tried to keep the game close, not a good job in the end. It only goes a third of an inning with 3 hits allowed, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, no Ks on 21 pitches. The rest of the offense, though, for this Mets team just fell asleep in this one. A couple of hits around, but that's really it. And, of course, the defense did not help them either. Brett Baty with a questionable play in right field on that Moreno double over his head. Should he have been in a better position? Maybe, but also Brett Baty's not a right fielder, so you can't blame him too much. Baty in the lineup in this game as well because they were going up against the lefty and Eduardo Rodriguez. Benj got a rest day, and Benj also has not been great from the plate recently. So you throw Brett Baty in right field, probably not going to get the job done 9 times out of 10 for you to start the year. He's just not a right fielder. And of course, the judging of those kind of balls over his head, you really can't blame him too much for this one. The one you can blame is Mark Vientos, who had a chance to gun down a runner at home plate and did not. He spiked a ball into the ground towards the catcher in Luis Torrens. That's not going to get the job done ever as a first baseman. So the Mets have their flaws on the defensive side of the ball. You're seeing that already so far this season. But I think the offense is where it all starts. You have Nolan McLean on the mound. It's the rubber game of a 3-game set. You have to have your A game, especially with your ace on the mound. And they just did not have that in this one. The offense really fell asleep for the most part. They had a couple chances throughout, but really could not extend the lead, and it hurt them in the end. And Nolan McLean, in what was a pretty solid outing in this one, just a couple of hits allowed in that 7th inning, and that was the difference for Nolan McLean in this one. Of course, getting credited with the loss. He's 1-1 now on the year. So the Mets lose a bad game at home, end up getting booed off their home field after that series loss to the Diamondbacks. And then the Mets head into another series now. They welcome the Athletics, who just took down the Yankees, so no easy series matchup in all of baseball. And really, it's proved for the Athletics, especially after that win against the Yankees. Now the Mets have to take them down, and it's going to be Clay Holmes who gets the ball for New York starting tonight. A 7-10 start at Citi Field. Clay Holmes 2-0 on the year, a 1.42 ERA. He's going up against JT Ginn, the right-hander, who does not have a decision yet this year and has a 5.14 ERA in 7 innings pitched this season. So we'll see what happens tonight. Clay Holmes has been electric so far this year, looking to continue that against an Athletics lineup that really does not have the star power that it needs, but they can chip away and play some small ball and try to take advantage of the defense of the Mets that has not been great, like I mentioned, so far this season. So the start of a 3-game set at Citi Field as the Mets take on the Athletics. This one starting tonight at 7:10. Let's finish things off today in the world of hockey as the New York Islanders got a massive win on Thursday night as they welcome the Toronto Maple Leafs to UBS Arena. The Islanders win at 5-3 the final. A great performance by the Isles coming off of 4 straight losses. They snapped that 4-game losing streak and really dominated Toronto throughout this game. It ended up finishing 44-16 in shots on the evening, but I think it was even more than that considering that Toronto had an empty net and really was trying to chip away as well. The Islanders did a great job in this game being on the front foot and taking it to this Maple Leafs team that has not been good so far this season. Great job by the Isles with Matthew Schaefer being one of the stars of the show once again. He ends up matching the rookie defenseman goal record in this game with his 23rd goal of the year. Ties the record with Brian Leetch of the New York Rangers all those years ago. And then you look at the rest of the team. Ilya Sorokin did not have his greatest game in this one, with Toronto only putting 16 shots on net. He allows 3 goals. But the Islanders know that Sorokin maybe doesn't have his best night every single night. They have to score goals, and that's what matters the most. Peter DeBoer, in his debut for the Islanders as the head coach, ends up getting a much-needed victory for this Isles team. So you look at the playoff picture now, and it's a little bit complicated as a lot of results from yesterday, but the most important results of them all were that the Columbus Blue Jackets lost to the Buffalo Sabres yesterday, as well as the Philadelphia Flyers lost to the Detroit Red Wings as well last night. So the Islanders now sit a point back of the Philadelphia Flyers. They sit a point ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and all 3 teams have played 79 games this season. The biggest hope for the Islanders win and get in wherever you can, whether it's in the wild card or the Metro. It looks most likely that the Islanders will want to chase down Philadelphia in the Metropolitan Division. That might be the easiest path when you're looking as well at the Atlantic Division and the teams in the wild card. Boston, Ottawa, Detroit are all red hot right now, especially Ottawa, who sits now 3 points ahead of the Islanders with a huge 5-1 victory yesterday for the Senators against the Florida Panthers. So right now, the Islanders want to chase the Philadelphia Flyers. That's probably their best chance to finish off the year. And the Islanders will be back in action tomorrow. It's an afternoon game where they welcome the Ottawa Senators. So the Islanders still have a chance to catch Ottawa in that wild card. It's going to have to come with a win, though, especially in this game on their home ice on Saturday afternoon. And the Islanders are underdogs coming into this game right now with the line on the total sitting at 5.5. But really, Ottawa is red hot right now. They completely trucked through a lot of teams in the last 4 games or so in their division, in that very tough Atlantic Division. And they're a team that the Islanders are chasing, so they have to have their A game in this one. A repeat performance of what they were able to do against the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. That's exactly what the Islanders would need in this game. And of course, chasing down the Philadelphia Flyers, Philly ends up taking on Winnipeg as well tomorrow night, excuse me. When you look at the rest of the picture, though, no games tonight. Everything focused on tomorrow. I think the other most important factor for this Islanders team is that they, in the last 2 games, face off against Montreal and Carolina. You're hoping that Carolina wins a couple of games as well for the last couple of games of the season and clinches a spot at the top of the Eastern Conference and does not have to play their guys for their final game against the Islanders when they take on New York on Tuesday next week. And really, that's your only hope against beating Carolina on your home ice. Carolina's been so good so far this year, arguably the best team in hockey, and that's what you're looking at from the Islanders' standpoint. Don't play your guys in that game on Tuesday. Give the Islanders a win in that one. It's probably going to be crucial considering with the Islanders taking on 2 tough opponents in the Senators as well as the Canadiens in the last couple of games. Both teams fighting for a lot right now in the playoff picture in terms of seeding as well. And it comes down to tomorrow. But for the Islanders, just win. That's all that matters. Just win your games and focus on everything else after. If they do that, they probably should be in good shape in this Eastern Conference playoff picture. But it all starts tomorrow. Continue to win games. They have a very tough game tomorrow against the Ottawa Senators. It's a 1 o'clock start at UBS Arena. Make sure you tune in to that one tomorrow afternoon. But that will do it for episode 154 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malum, and thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Monday.